Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day today, and in this video we're going to be doing a review for Return of the Jedi, also known as Star Wars Episode 6, which came out in 1983. This was the final installment to the original trilogy, and to just hop right into the review, it's probably the weakest of the original trilogy. A lot of people would agree. As a matter of fact, Star Wars pretty much peaked during The Empire Strikes Back, its second movie, and then it just went downhill from there. I mean, not like entirely, it's kind of just been like up and down and just that kind of deal. But even though this is the least good of the original trilogy, there's still some great elements in here. It's iconic, it's quotable, and of course there have been a lot of memes from it. And it's still got that great score from John Williams. To be completely honest, he never misses. Now it is worth keeping in mind, for the story, there's like a 1-year gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And kind of the stuff that happened in between is explained in the War of the Bounty Hunters comic, which is pretty new. But anyways, the first act of this movie is pretty much just Jabba's palace, and I gotta say it's not really that good. It's kind of garbage. I mean, it's not entirely terrible. On the bright side, it actually introduces us to a lot of different aliens from the Star Wars universe, and there's some cool stuff like the Rancor, and it's good that they were rescuing Han, but at the end of the day, it's just not great. The actual plan for them to rescue Han just made zero sense, and the only reason they survived was really just luck. I understand it is a science fiction movie or space fantasy, whatever you want to call it, but there still should be some logic in it. They really just put everyone in danger by just Lando just being there and then putting the droids in there and then Leia coming and failing. And then Luke went there and then they were all in danger, and it's just crazy. And of course the Sarlacc pit was bad because it killed Boba Fett. And then nearly 40 years later, Disney finally fixed that mistake, which makes me have to wonder if it was worth them buying Star Wars. So that was definitely very frustrating. And then once you get into the second act of the film, it's actually pretty okay. It's just really setting stuff up for the final battle. It gets pretty good once you get to Endor and get introduced to the Ewoks. I know a lot of people actually don't really like the Ewoks. They think they're just like teddy bears, and so it was just a way to sell toys. But honestly, I kind of like the idea of them having a species that looks harmless, because that's what makes them so powerful at the end of the day, is that they're actually very deadly. So I don't think it's a stretch that they were able to kill the Empire. I mean, think about it this way. Stormtroopers have terrible aim, but overall I actually don't mind the Ewoks at all. I will say Han doesn't do anything nearly as memorable as he does in the first two Star Wars movies, kind of because his character arc was pretty much done. I mean, sacrificing himself in The Empire Strikes Back was pretty much as good as it got. But since it was Harrison Ford, of course it was still a ton of fun. And his romance with Leia was very good. Although it never addresses that Luke and Leia kissed in The Empire Strikes Back. I guess they just kind of forgot about that. Because yes, in this movie, they found out that they were siblings. And Luke is also very great in this movie. He's become more mature, and so his character arc is very good as he tries to make Darth Vader turn back to the light side while he's also being pulled towards the dark side. And you got the Emperor in there. All of the performances are good, and it was just done very well. The lightsaber battle might be like the best one in all of Star Wars, and this definitely has some top tier emotion. And all of the character arcs are just done very nicely. Of course, you also have Lando in this movie. He becomes a leader, and the space battle is just done very well. I also don't mind the second Death Star. I think it makes sense that they would want to redo something they did, just fixing a mistake, even though they still blow it up because of the complicated plan. So maybe if you dive into the science of it a little bit, you might have some problems, but I don't mind it too much. I think it makes sense on a story level. And overall, just the action is very good, it's very exciting, and there's a little bit of humor in here that's also done very well. In terms of the special edition changes that were made to this movie, this might have had the most out of the original trilogy, or maybe it was A New Hope. And there were some good, like moving their eyebrows from the unmasked Darth Vader. It was a small change, but it makes a huge difference. It just makes more sense. But there were also some pretty bad changes, and then some changes that are just kind of whatever. I don't really have an opinion on them. Like how they changed Darth Vader's Force Ghost to Hayden Christensen, who played him in the prequels. Some people have said that the younger version of him doesn't make much sense on a story level. I have no clue which one makes much more sense. It doesn't actually make a difference to me. I have an opinion on most of the special edition changes, but not really that one, even though it is pretty big. So overall, when it comes to this movie, the first act is definitely very flawed. But the second act is good enough, and the third act is just absolute cinema. And at the end of the day, the point of this movie was to conclude the trilogy, and it did that very nicely. As a matter of fact, this might just be a great conclusion to the Star Wars saga in general. So overall, on the quality scale of 0 to 100, we'll give it an 82%, and you definitely got to check this movie out if you haven't already. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.